Sometimes you find a game that looks like it's going to be the worst slop you've ever found, but it turns out to be amazing. And other times, the slop is actually just slop. My name is Graeldon, I'm on an impossible journey to review every Steam game in alphabetical order, and today we're playing 100 Wars. Let's begin. Firstly, let's just acknowledge that this game is a long way from being decent, a fact that many of you may have guessed from seeing just a few seconds of gameplay. Secondly, it was developed and published by this company, which translates to Renaissance Snow, and released on Steam on the 15th of October 2024, accumulating only a single review since then. And lastly, I want to point out that I have no idea why this game is positioned here in the store instead of earlier in the list. It's the last game before we move from 100 to 101, but the previous games didn't have a space after the 0, while this one does. I suspect the actual name of the game might have a Chinese character after the 0, which causes it to come after the English letters, and what we see is a translated version. My only evidence for this is that SteamDB lists the title as this, which confirms my theory and suggests the title was changed later. Whatever the case may be, it's here now, and I'm going to do my best to put my experience playing the game into words. It was, well... You know what? They say a picture paints 1,000 words, and if every frame in a video is an image, then you're about to speed read an entire book. Just look at this. I think the best description I have for 100 Wars is that it's a third-person team deathmatch arena shooter roguelike. Honestly, if a can of adjective-only alphabet soup spilled everywhere, it'd resemble something like this. It's just missing deck builder, Souls-like, and hero shooter to round out the buzzword-laden description to excite the media and drive those clickbait metrics, even if the reality of the gameplay is far, far from what we've described. Simply put, in 100 Wars, you're unceremoniously dumped into an arena with a bunch of AIs, some of which are on your team, and then left to duke it out. The first team to reach 100 kills is crowned the winner. So, what's the catch? Or more correctly, is there a catch? Yes. Every 30 seconds or so, a random modifier is applied to everyone currently alive. I can guarantee you now, the person who created these modifiers is most definitely not a game designer and has no concept of the words balance or restraint. But more on those in a moment. First, behold the main menu. Sorry, there's an Unreal Engine pop-up for an app called Third Person BP Game Template requesting firewall access in the way. I'll just get rid of that, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Behold the main menu. There's no settings menu, just language and play. So what languages are available? Quite a lot apparently, including ones I've never heard of before, like English. Interestingly, after changing the language to English, the names of other languages are updated, but while Chinese is just Chinese, Japanese is Japanese language, so I'm guessing English isn't the only incorrect option here. Well, let's get into the game then, shall we? How bad can it be? You know what? I'm just gonna let you watch the opening cutscene in all of its glory. Enjoy.
你愿意和我生孩子吗？
凭什么？
因为现在全世界只剩我们2个人类了，我们有义务肩负人类文明复兴的责任。
这个工厂里面就有很多异常的机器人，帮我干掉他们，我会考虑的。
Okay, so we've got a lot to break down. So we've got 2 characters, one male and one female. They are unnamed, so from now on they'll be Larry and Holly. From their discussion, we can infer that they are the only 2 humans left, because they tell us exactly that, as though one of them had a sudden case of plot-induced amnesia. There's a typo in the final line with Holly saying, "There are many abnormal robots in this factory to help me kill them." To help you kill who? Or what? I think you meant there are many abnormal robots in this factory, help me kill them? And then Holly promptly vanishes. Larry goes into spasms, probably from the shock of watching 50% of the human race vanish in front of his eyes, and yet somehow manages to raise his eyebrows perfectly smoothly. He even gets a full blink in, temporarily warps into the void,
All hail the void!
We see a sweeping shot of the arena as enemies are literally spawned in, and then boom, we're in, and immediately told to use R casually, whatever that means. During this entire sequence, the UI is visible, only for it to feel the need to show off with a little swinging animation at the very start of the round, as though it missed its cue and was on stage from the start instead of waiting for the curtain to raise, which, weirdly, is probably almost exactly what happened from a programming perspective. The UI itself is kind of a lot. Text overflows the background elements, some buttons are shown with letters and others with icons. We already have one shut, some kind of tesseract-like cube thing in the top right, energy, and what I assume is a health bar, but also attack and blood volume below that, which is concerning, because while I don't think this is a vampire game, I'm not sure of anything anymore. We can press E to displacement, which is just a short dash or teleport, R for enhancement, which is actually a heal that costs 50 energy, and if we are ever able to find the SHE button, we have acceleration, confirming once and for all that Larry is a vehicle, not a human. 5 seconds of gameplay is all it takes for me to realize that the mouse sensitivity is way too high, so I press escape to open the settings and get kicked right back to the main menu. Wonderful. So you can't pause the game, got it. So we go through the opening cutscene, and again I'm reminded of the weird trend of female armor covering less skin but offering more protection, likely because it distracts the enemy and reduces their accuracy. Larry then spawns beneath the stage and finally teleports back into it, and we start the fight all over again. It doesn't take Larry long to die, at which point the camera kind of just decides to fixate on the ground. After respawning, getting our first kill and then dying again, we realize why. Look! There goes my body! Whee! If flailing corpses dealt physics damage based on momentum, Larry would be the most deadly human Beyblade on the battlefield. Screw guns, just get yourself killed while running at full speed and use your momentum to batter the other combatants into a pulp. The sad reality is that Larry's limbs are about as effective and graceful as a Magikarp using Splash in the middle of a field, so we wait for the respawn and try again. It takes a couple of deaths, but eventually I get up onto the catwalk and start raining death down on my enemies, and it's here that I notice that the bullets actually move quite slowly, and I'm having to lead shots even at this short range. Thankfully, most guns have a small area of effect on impact, so you don't have to be perfectly accurate. Unfortunately, I hadn't figured out how to heal yet, because I didn't know how to get energy, and I wasn't paying attention to it. Basically, every shot fired will generate 1 energy, and spending 50 will recover 500 points of blood, which is your health. You technically can overheal, but it reduces back to your actual maximum amount fairly quickly. Interestingly, while every gun is an automatic weapon with infinite ammo, you can actually shoot faster by manually clicking. So, to be as effective as possible, you want to be clicking at all times to generate energy as quickly as possible and keep yourself alive. You can even shoot during the opening cutscene to generate energy before the match starts. My reign of terror on the catwalk is swiftly ended by an elemental from the opposing team, which sends the camera flying out of bounds.
All hail the void!
I also love how I get shot immediately after respawning. Spawn camping is not just allowed, but encouraged in 100 wars. After 99 of them, I guess they learned that you don't always need to fight by the rules. I shoot my teammate for a bit, not realizing that it's Holly, and then get turned into a T-posing alien. Yeah, I guess this is a good time to elaborate on the modifiers I mentioned earlier. When I said they are random, I did mean they are randomized, but also that they are just that. Random. It's not just attack buffs, health changes, or the likes. No, it's things like forcing everyone to change teams, including you, or putting a silly hat on your head that changes color when shot, or making everyone into 2D cutouts, or spawning a bunch of aliens that aren't on any of the teams, or making gems appear that can be collected, or making everyone invisible. I think at one point I turned into the gun. The most game-breaking one, weirdly enough, is one that gives everyone a gun that causes enemies to bounce into the air when shot. You can essentially use this to juggle enemies in mid-air, but this has the unfortunate side effect of causing them to go out of bounds, or just vanish entirely. I had to restart the first round because the enemies stopped respawning. To add insult to injury, the game spawned a bunch of chickens and told me not to kill them. Nothing actually happens if you do. You just have to live with the knowledge that you're a monster. I sigh, question the life choices that led to this particular moment, and then restart yet again. This round is successful, and after it finishes, Larry is teleported onto some kind of spaceship along with members from the other teams. Please notice how only the human walks correctly. The robots just bob along the ground because the animation hasn't been rigged properly. We also learn here that enemies can be recruited to your team by bribing them with currency, which is the cubes in the top right. You can also convince them to become hostile, which allows you to grind an infinite amount of money because they'll keep respawning endlessly. This bribing mechanic can also be used during a match, but the odds of getting close enough to make it work are so low, and the odds of an NPC staying in the arena until the end are somehow even lower, so it's a pretty pointless mechanic. However, you can spend your money on upgrades by interacting with floating cubes. Upgrading your health adds 10 points to your base blood volume, so a 1% increase. Wonderful. Upgrading your attack increases it by 2 points, so a 2% upgrade. Wow. Alternatively, you can upgrade any of the 4 guns. My favourite was the one that causes explosions, because then I don't feel as bad about having terrible aim. Upgrading the gun does nothing. Every stat on the gun stays the same. Here's the before, and then after I spend 250 cubes on it. So that's cool. Interacting with the cube at the top of the stairs starts the next round, and not only are we now in slums that look like they've been ripped directly from an Uncharted game, we also get treated to another cutscene. After winning the second round, we're returned to the ship again, and the game crashes. After restarting the game, the language has changed to Russian. Thankfully, our progress is saved, so we skip the ship section entirely and go straight into round 3. I'll spare you the details, but we basically repeat this song and dance 7 times. 7 times. At one point, upon returning to the spaceship between rounds, some hostile NPCs appear out of bounds. I realise that I can stand next to the door, causing my gun to poke through, allowing me to shoot them and farm currency. So, if you find yourself struggling to win, and for whatever reason don't have anything better to play, at least you know you can get infinite money for infinite upgrades and overcome the challenge through sheer persistence. The final match is an absolute slog, simply because by the end of the match there are only a handful of enemies left on the map. It might have been faster to just restart and try again, but unfortunately I am very stubborn. Eventually, Larry wins and we return to the ship again and start the next match. Oh. It's the opening cutscene again. It loops. There is no end to this. No escape. Or is there? I was playing along to see if it introduces smarter AI opponents, or if there are new modifiers. There aren't. When one triggers, which causes players to fly into the air randomly. Using this, I took Larry for a short adventure out of bounds. I wasn't alone though, as within seconds, Holly spawned outside as well, proving that the spawn locations are the problem, not just the guns that launch players into the air. Now, I know this clip looks super dodgy, but I swear I'm just laughing at the hand placement, because it looks like nobody knows how to even hold a gun in this game. I'm now stuck outside the map with no way to die and respawn inside, so I try using my gun to launch Holly back into the arena. Not sure what that would actually achieve, but it was possibly the most fun I had in the game. Unfortunately for Holly, the gods decide to force her to switch teams, so I put her out of her misery. Multiple times. Moments later, Larry also switches teams, so any hope of victory is now lost. After running into the void for a while,
Oh, hail the void!
Another modifier causes damage to be partially reflected onto the shooter. Larry seizes the opportunity to commit suicide, returning them to the actual play area. After making it back, I wonder why I bothered in the first place, and remember that Alt F4 exists. I think it should be pretty obvious that my rating for 100 Wars isn't going to be favourable. There's an interesting idea at the core, and the janky physics made me laugh a few times, but that's basically all that it has going for it. There's no art direction, so everything feels like a jumbled mess of pre-made Unreal assets. Heck, someone in the comments will probably point out that they are actually exactly that. The music is a mashup of generic sounding electronic, pop and piano songs that don't match the visuals, while the sound effects are so bad that the gunfire could be mistaken for a popcorn machine. The UI is an eyesore, the guns are boring, there's no variety in the win conditions for the rounds, the cutscenes are just woeful, and the upgrade system is so minor it's basically pointless. But worst of all is that the single interesting thing about the game, the modifier system, is so random and unbalanced that it's not fun or interesting to engage with. If they had made it so that a random modifier is applied at the start of each match and only then it would make the gameplay more tactical, as you need to adapt to a new set of rules every time. Because they change so frequently, there's no point in doing anything other than just shooting the enemy and hoping for the best, because by the time you've adapted to the change, a new one has already happened. On that note, even including a countdown timer until the next modifier happens would have gone a long way towards improving things, as would having a UI element that lists the currently active rules. Given this was clearly built upon a pre-made game template, I doubt the devs were ever expecting it to get much attention, especially considering it's listed for $1.50 dues, so it would take hundreds of sales to recover the $100 needed to list the game in the Steam store in the first place. I think there are lessons to be learned from this game though, most of which I've already touched on. The devs tried a few things, built a game with basic deathmatch mechanics, and called it a day. I think the boldest thing the devs did though was link their YouTube on the store page, as their channel only has 5 videos and none of them are related to 100 Wars. Or maybe I just don't understand their brilliant marketing strategy. Whatever the case may be, there's absolutely no reason to ever play this game unless you're on a ridiculous journey like mine. So that's why my final score for 100 Wars is shooting an enemy through a door out of 10. It technically works, but it also doesn't at the same time, and it makes you realize that you could be doing better things with your time. Thank you to all the Crusaders and Templar Knights for supporting the channel and making videos like these possible, especially the Noble Knights, Azazel, Daydos, Kartoffeljäger3, Negi Malevolent, Chev_, and The Crabs. And an extra special thank you goes to our 4 Knights of the Holy Grail, Ashley Walks, Automatistic, Freaky Feline, and Matey8. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the membership options below, or just remember to like and subscribe, that helps too. That's all for now, so if you've made it this far, here's a sneak peek of the next game. And until next time, take care.